Nico, I am very happy and excited to have you on the Info Podcast. This is where we've kind of helped share and highlight the untold stories of those who've been able to turn their passions into profit, skills into sales, and knowledge into something impactful and incredible. So it was very interesting to see, kind of what you guys are doing at the NetZero Project. I believe, or at least from what I know, it's not a common conversation when it comes to like the agricultural side. So I'm interested to see how you've been able to do that for your specific passions and expertise into this project. But with that being said, guys, we have the one and only Nico here. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to this conversation. Technology adoption in agriculture and in a sustainable, let's say, world is going through a major shift, I can tell you.
Mhm.
So I think it's important we address both the challenges and opportunities it brings farmers and agribusinesses, not only farmers.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely one of the things I want to get into, right? There's a whole big conversation of like, hi, automations and just overall
Yeah,
technology and how it's evolving, which I can imagine how it's impacting specifically in the agricultural space. But help us understand a little bit about yourself, like your background and how we even got to
yeah,
the Net Project.
yeah, sure. I come from a very deeply rooted background in agriculture, so I am agronomist. But also, if I need to summarize, it's a business side of the agriculture, data intelligence, data insight, kind of building more in the side of the intelligence of the data to focus more in the decision making process. Okay. And lately, in the last 10 years, I was some kind of shift my career to a more resilient agriculture. I like to use the word resilience agriculture because it's get from the conventional agriculture to the sustainable or more regenerative agriculture. So it covers more. And I'm very focused in the path how to jump from a conventional agriculture to a resilience or a regenerative agriculture that not only focus on regenerative agriculture and forget the actual
Yeah.
situation of farming. Okay. So over the years, I saw a major gap, and it's happened, I don't know, since I started 30 or plus years ago. And not only here in US, but also in my countries and South America and also in Europe and more than 17 countries that I work with. There is a big gap between the farmers and the agribusinesses and between the technology creators, let's say, and the users of the technology. So that's it somehow leading the adoption or not of the technologies. Okay. So they are not they need to be more focused in the real problems that farmers have
Hmm.
in farmers and not only in a very fancy tool. Okay,
Great.
so be more farmer centric instead of being tool centric, let's say.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can see that. I can
Yeah,
like, and I mean, pardon my ignorance and um, lack of knowledge, but I can you for the most common person, they probably wouldn't think of technology being used probably in farming. They're like, oh, okay, like the traditional side of like just like blue collar labored work, but it's like, no, no, no. There's a lot more technology that's used in this practice and in this industry than most people probably would even know, right? So how has that like evolvement of like utilizing technology and specific kind of tools help transform this
that's a good question. So first of all, I like to say all the time that farming it's like an open sky factory.
yeah.
So there are plenty of risks. So it's about a risk. So you have some variables you can control and some other variables you can't, like market and weather. But imagine having let's say a computer factory without any roof. Okay. So in the factory, so you will see how risky it is to produce some kind of computer, without roof. So this is very important to understand for people that is not coming from agriculture. Okay. So risk it's not only about the classic risk that everybody have, in any kind of businesses, but also we are talking about risk that we cannot control. Saying that, the technology was evolving during the last 40, 50 years, focusing exactly on how to reduce the risk, okay? And those who really succeed were those who could somehow, tackle that exactly problem instead of just let's say moving in the trends of AIs and those kind of fancy things.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is very important. Okay, and when I'm talking about technology, Jeremiah, in agriculture, and I believe it's in everywhere. Technology could be a new tool, a new
Yeah.
machinery. It could be a new practices, how to produce differently a new crop. It could be also a new way to produce seeds. Okay. But normally it's more related to digital, to the
Sure.
AIs and those kind of things, because it's the latest, let's say, trend in the market. When you really think about agriculture, in the last 50 years, we are very early adopters of technology. So we have
Mhm.
been having GPS using for decades, and we have new combines every single year, being more efficient and harvesting
Mhm.
better, without losing food. And we have a lot of, let's say, remote sensing. Since years, we are using remote sensing for the automotive machinery, or just to measure and really calculate something and be more efficient when we are calculating variables. So we have been, and now the AI is also in our world, and it's growing very fast. So agriculture is a very adopter, let's say, of technologies. Sometimes, as you need to work on the land, you need to have more labor, as you said, also more machineries, more infrastructure that is linked to technology than maybe digital tools. Okay,
Yeah.
but you can imagine today how cool things we are
Yeah.
using, and we are producing. It's so much. It's so amazing, so amazing. Like you can really control a production of rice in Southeast Asia from here.
Wow.
Completely very easy. Okay, so, and that is something that it's happening all the time. But those tools, technologies, digital, whatever you want to call, that really succeed during these times were those who really tackle a problem, and they are not so complex for farming.
Correct.
Okay, again, it's an open sky factory. They don't have an IT team to solve the problem when the technology crashes. That's another point. It's a company. It's
Yeah.
a company, but they don't have human resources. They don't have, most of them. Okay, they don't have a system team, that can solve a bug if a bug appears. So
Right.
that's also very important. Okay, and that is part of also of the gap between the companies that want to push technology or producing technology and the one who needs to adopt technology.
Yeah. And I guess with that, right? With this industry, do you find like most leaders, it's a continuous conversation and rethinking how they're adopting this technology? Or do you find that there's actually more people who are hesitant and pushing back on the progression and like integration of like these different technologies within the agricultural space?
Such a nice question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you think like that. My
I think
bad.
No, it's okay. I think it's a very great question. I am exposed also to other industries, but I think it's happening in all the industries. I think in the agriculture, like we are managing some biological ecosystems, like we call a live ecosystem. It's changing every single microsecond, because there are bacteria and fungi, they are interacting each other, so they're all the time measuring. I think that make us or put us a bigger challenge, of something that is more, I call quadratic. I don't know if it's exactly the correct word. Okay,
Hmm.
perfectly, organized step-by-step processes oriented and whatever. So that it's making somehow a challenge when you are creating tools and the leadership are trying to somehow solve those problems of the agriculture without really, let's say, thinking that kind of challenge that the biological system have or ecosystem have. Okay, so that's why there are plenty of leaderships and people who are launching ag tech or startups that are more focused in the technology inside the tool and not in the simplification, of the decision-making
Yeah.
process. So it's more focused on the tool and not in the decision farmers need to take. So, and that it's, how can I say, you will see that in the market, like too many fragmented
Correct.
tools, data silos and very complex platform. They're very nice, So for
Hmm.
those who has a very big profile of analytics, they are so cool. You need to see them, and they are very well done from the
Hmm.
product's perspective, very strong. But they don't integrate or they don't have the support in the usage of it. So that's why you have a lot of subscribers, in the tools,
Yeah.
not too many users. So people is subscribed, but they are not using
Yeah.
it. So why? That's the question. And that's part of the gap I
Mhm.
talked to you. Okay. So I think leadership and consultancy still need to work in that gap. Again, even if it's a new seed or a new crop protection or chemical fertilizer or biological or a digital tool, that gap I told you between the reality of farming and what the companies are producing, that the gap is still there and it has been there for 30 years. So we still have that challenge.
Yeah. Now, help. So, I mean, we kind of jumped past this, and I apologize, but I think this is a good time. Help us understand, because you guys tackle a lot of this with the Net Zero Project. Help the viewers understand a little bit more about like what is that? What is it specifically that your guys are like doing and accomplishing? Because this is pretty incredible. It's not like I don't think it's as simple as just utilizing technology to help these farmers, but I think you're battling something a lot bigger. Help me understand a little bit more about the Net Zero Project and specifically like how that came about.
Yeah, no problem. So our vision, the Net Zero Project, I created thinking about making agriculture in a different way. I like to challenge the status quo somehow, and not because I am
Somebody
against.
has to.
Yeah, not because I'm against. Okay, I've been in the industry for so many years. I work in many companies, and so it's because I like to challenge the status quo in order to get that out of the box thinking. Okay, so because if we have problems that we cannot solve, we need to someone that think somehow out of the box. Okay, that's why we created a Net Zero Project that it's very focused in sustainability and regen ag, but not as a fanatic, position, but the north. Okay, we are pointing the north. That is where we need to go. And our vision is very clear. It's spreading our expertise in regen ag to protect our planet and create a profound impact, making a world of difference. That is a beautiful vision. And we truly believe, all the people I called to join our project, they are good people, first of all, because I cannot see bad people trying to face this north. Okay.
Right.
And our mission is more clear because it's to support farmers and businesses in the agriculture into the, I'm going to say, regeneration of biodiversity, soil health, water quality, while reducing greenhouse emissions and improving organic matter in the soil, making farming operation a little more profitable or resilient or being more sustainably speaking in an economic way, okay, economically sustainable. Because if there is no sustainability in the economics of the farmers and the business, they will not adopt. They will, or that will not continue. So we need to create something that is stay. So that's why we create this, and technology adoption plays a huge role in this. Okay, we got farmers and agribusiness, and through let's say a low risk, high impact approach to digital adoption, all the complexity of the tools are behind the scene, like in a car. You don't see all the electronic devices and the engine all the time. They are behind some kind of gauge that is the car,
Mhm.
but it's there. And in the end, what you are getting is a soft driver, safety, or whatever. It's a performance or whatever you look for, what would you like for a car. But you don't see that behind the scene or inside that, the car. There are plenty of complexities.
Correct.
So what we are trying to do with net zero is try to make it exactly like a car, put all the complexity behind the scenes, like AI, any kind of remote sensing, and all the kind of technology, very high tech technology behind the scene, and put in front of the farmers a more, let's say, easy to understand tools that make somehow take the decision. Because we believe that the technology is just a tool that should somehow help the decision-making process of farmers and not put more complexity in the decision, that in the end they see more risk, of those that we already talked about. So we are trying to really work towards reducing that gap I told you between
Correct.
companies and the reality of the farmers. It's a big
Yeah.
challenge for sure, but that's why we really want to think out of the box.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think you're hitting on something pretty not just impactful, but something that's a bit serious because I feel like a lot of people nowadays they're like, oh, let's do like incorporate technology just for the use of incorporating technology, right? And because it's the big thing versus you guys are going at it at a very more intentional and purpose driven within the sustainability, but closing that gap, which is, I think makes a lot more sense. Have you seen a lot of farmers or like these companies pushing back on like the integration of like the solutions or trying to incorporate these new methods? Because farming is a little bit more, from again lack of knowledge, is something where most people probably wouldn't see them incorporating this, right? So how do you guys go about like having those conversations and bringing out the importance of them like integrating these solutions into a space like this?
Yeah, I think, again, if you consider technology from the broader perspective, as I told you, like it could be a new machinery or a new seed or a new biotech or a digital tool. I think adoption in the agribusiness is, let's say, focusing in three main pillars. Okay, the one is the agronomic impact. So, does this tool improve soil health, for instance? Does this tool help me to increase the yield or make more efficient, while producing the same yield? Is this tool helping me to improve the biodiversity or I don't know, water efficiency? That is the agronomic impact. Okay, is this really helping me in the agronomic I am using today? Is something that it's integrated in what I'm doing today, right? If it's not integrated, or you need to make very difficult, steps to integrate it, that will be perceived like a risk, okay, in the agronomics perspective. So the second one is economic. The economic risk is more, hey, will this help me to be more efficient in cost or increase my revenue?
Yeah,
Or does this
very
new
important.
technology need to, I don't know, invest in a new machinery that it costs $100,000? Who will pay that? Are you helping me to finance those tools? New tools. So those kind of economics return is also, or risk. Okay, we have agronomic and economic risk. Okay, are also very important, and the combination of both somehow help to the tool or technology be more adopted or not. And the third one, and the last but not least,
Yeah,
is the emotional or easy to use. Okay, emotional is that is happening in US. The age of the US farmers is 58 years and growing. So you can imagine that more than a third of the farmers are in retired, somehow aged. How you help, to somehow adopt that technology without changing all the emotional part, like this is my farm, I am the fifth generation of
that's what
farmer
I.
producing in this
Correct.
way. So you need to serve somehow that wave at the same time, the emotional
Mhm.
part, and be beside the farmers in that age. Also, how you help that the new generation of farmers are not going out to the cities and stay somehow in the farms. Well, technology could be a very good driver.
Yeah,
And the other part emotionally is the ease of use. Is
yeah,
this new technology will make me change whatever I'm doing in the last 50 years, or
correct.
it will somehow accelerate the good thing I'm doing? So it's agronomic, economic, and emotional risk. Those three parts are where somehow you need to very focus to get more adoption of your new technology.
Yeah, and I think you're really hitting home on that third point, which we've found for a lot of people in particular type of businesses. It is that emotional side, right? We've been doing this for this way for this long. This how it's always been done. So having that transition and that adoption is critical, and I think a lot of it is like the knowledge, helping them to really actually understand how useful but easy and efficient it is going to make them and make the like help the actual business as a whole. And some people overthink that to where it's like, no, 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 you got to use this because technology is doing this or it's going to help your business do X. It's like, no, 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 you're still dealing with people at the end of the day, and you can never forget that
Exactly.
aspect. So,
And I'm very fun to say that tools should help the decision making process, but the
yes.
decision is still in the human side.
Mm,
So you can help to using AI. We can talk about AI if you want, but
yeah.
the AI can help to accelerate the process of the information and giving some options of recommendation. But in the end, the final decision should come from the human part. That's my opinion today. Okay, with the technology we have
Yeah.
today, let's see in the future. Sometimes it scares a little bit, but don't be scared. We will be there still.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it's something that it's very, very important that the tool is a tool and the decision still or should be still in the human. So you are tackling that emotional risk we have been talking.
Correct. Do you know any, which I'm pretty sure you do, but could you give an example of any companies that's out there that's like successfully rethinking how they're like their approach with technology and what they're specifically doing in the space right now?
Yeah, there are plenty of there. I don't know if so. John Deere is doing a very good job. I think John Deere is leading somehow the integration of technologies, and also it's linked to machinery that it's a core for production, it's for
Yeah.
the production. So that's a very nice combination. That is a very success story. And there are plenty of other successful stories that are really helping farmers to somehow improve what they are doing in their farms or ranches that are more related to probably be more efficient.
Hmm.
The precision ag, that is called precision ag, is when you can, let me explain in simple words. It's you
Take
have a
your time.
field. No, it's okay. I will try. There is a field, but when you see a field from the air, like say from satellite, you will see that there are kind of spots inside the field. That means that it's a different kind of soil. It could be a different problem with water. I don't know, flood or water tanks or something about infiltration or lixiviation or percolation of water. It could be a deficiency of nutrients. So when you see that, you will see that inside your field, someone did the field square, but but that is not true in biology.
Yeah.
Maybe you have two fields and aside the other one, and
Correct.
they are somehow sharing the same kind of soil and water movement. So maybe we need to just thinking about the future. Okay, maybe we need to cut off all those, fence and everything and start doing again, because that
Like a
we will be
purge.
more efficient. But when you see a field with all those spots, you realize that you have what we call different environments. So this precision that we have been using precision since 20 years at least, it's you can tell the machinery that in the different spot apply different things or different application rates or different seed rates. So you are more efficient because the response of what you are putting on the soil will be better than if you just spread like a broadcaster, spraying or broadcaster application,
Yeah.
like applying the same in everything. So those tools that help that precision, are very successful, let's say, cases. Okay, and there are plenty of them.
Hmm. I think it's incredible because that makes me think about the conversation people have, especially like on the AI automation side, where it's like, oh, AI is going to replace us. It's like, no, it's not. It's not going to simply just replace you. Now, you will be replaced by those who can utilize the technology, right? And from that example, back in the day, a farmer couldn't tell from the whole field which spots specifically needed the different treatments. But now with the use of this technology, they get this overview they never had the opportunity to, and they can use it in a more effective way. So that farmer who was initially on the ground can utilize this technology to just overall make the place better. So it's the
Yeah,
people who are adopting and understanding how to apply these new technology to beat their competition or to have like that sustainability is the people who are going to last, and maybe like pioneer the new way of doing things, right?
exactly.
Am I
So you
understand?
always have the early
Okay.
adopters. You always have the innovators. Okay, that's happening in all the markets. But when I'm talking about the gap and the difficulties and the
Hmm.
challenges we are facing, and some very good cases and very successful cases, I'm talking about more the majority of the market. So the early majority or the later majority, that's the volume of the market. Okay, for sure you have the early adopters, but even the early adopters or innovators, there are more people more less adverse to risk. Let's say, okay, they don't adopt massively. They just try in a little piece of the land and see if the result, they will continue. So that is how agriculture is not one unit. acres. So they test in some acres. It's not like I don't know, like when you use a bottle, you buy a bottle. If you don't like, tomorrow you buy another one. Here you have like a kind of units that you can, let's say, split in spaces and make some A/B tests and say, okay, this is without and this is with. Let's see what it works. And that is very typical also in agriculture. And I celebrate that for those people who try, because the other people, the other farmers are looking for those ones that are trying and say if there is some result, they will copy that. So when I'm talking about these kind of challenges, and I'm trying to be more generalist, okay, and put everybody in the same bag, but they are very cool tools, they are very cool technology, there are farmers that are amazing. There are farmers that probably most of the people don't know. They are doing so many good things with and without technology that you can be very aware. Wow, you would say. I never thought about this. But AI, if you want to touch base in the AI, we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different tools, right? You have the commonalities of like the Chat GPTs, maybe like the Calendlys. What tools have you found to be useful for you guys specifically, but then also tools in this space that other people could adopt to make it easier for them as a farmer or as like the overall company to integrate as well?
Yeah, I think the sources of information are changing very fast. So there are.
Yes.
So today we are like in the middle of, okay.
Okay.
So we still have people that go into the field and take notes in a notebook, and a paper, pencil and paper, and go back to the office and sometimes they put on the computer, sometimes they don't. So we still have that, and I'm not talking about only US, I'm talking about the main country, the main agricultural countries, okay? But at the same time, you have other people that they don't touch a paper, okay? So considering like I'm massively, again, generalizing everybody, I think the way or the sources of information are changing very fast. Remote sensing is growing fast. The governments, like a US, is a real case. It's amazing how much information there is here in US to give or to that is at the hand of the farmers to use it and to take some decisions, and that is something that is changing very fast. And there are new technologies coming that could somehow solve the high cost that have, for instance, measuring soil. Today they need to go to the field, take samples, send to the lab, and that is very costly. So the new technologies like remote sensing and the new radars and the new drones, images capacity, some of them are coming from the medicine, that's very cool. So crossing industries to measure something without doing sampling, or without sending the cost of sending someone to do the sampling, it's very costly. So I think sources of information and measurement are going very fast, and it's very cool what you can see. The other one is the AI, for sure. It's growing very fast. The AI today is more for crop monitoring. There are some apps or some platform that you go and record, the crops, and that it's already doing a health analysis of your crop. They are predicting, the yield you will have, when exactly. So it's very cool because you can somehow take some decision about health, control some diseases or whatever. There are weather prediction also, if you can predict weathers and droughts problems, like in the last 4 years here in US, it was a drought problem everywhere. Then the precision, as I talked to you, the precision to apply exactly the amount you need to apply in some places. Then the weeds control, resistant control is also very useful using AI, because you can detect where they are, or you can predict when you will have some resistant weeds problems in the future. So you start working today in order to avoid that problem in the future.
Correct.
The breeding process, today there are AI that can predict which is the best variety or hybrid you can launch for that specific field, And just so you understand, a breeding process can take 8 years normally today, and it costs a lot of $1 million. With this AI, if it's very well used, you can reduce to 3-4 years, and the cost will be very low. That is
Okay.
good for us because we can somehow evolve technologically more in the classic input side and get more resilience crops and those kind of things. So what else?
Yeah, that's you're like opening my mind to this. And so my question would be with because it sounds like it's doing a lot of the I won't say a lot of the job that typically the farmer would do. Do you see there coming a time where I want to say you wouldn't have someone there, right? A human, because I feel like you're going to always need a human aspect for sure. But do you see to a point where whether it's with like the robotics and the automations comes a time where majority of the agricultural like tasks are taken care of by like AI and automations just because of how much, I won't say much more effective it could be, but like just how much could we get more done, right? Versus like that example of having a guy go out there to manually write the notes versus creating a robot that can, spatially see the ground and it takes the information from the oversight of the drone at the same time, right? That's where my mind goes, where it's like, okay, well, what if you just created a robotic machine that could do that at the same time. So then you don't even have to worry about the manual labor aspect and it can run around the clock and still report, have different types of scanning. Do you see there coming a time that it's going to take a good majority of the human aspect out, or not to speak too much about it?
I think you are tackling a problem that all the industries is tackling. It's
Yeah.
a big discussion today and a very hot topic. And I don't think so. I think we need to evolve. I think tools will still
Hmm.
be tools, sorry, but we need to evolve. The big question for myself maybe could be what happened with some countries, some regions where they are more not so advanced, and that, if you go to Africa or if you go to Latin America, you will see some production that are far away of this. So how is the competitive environment for those farmers in the future could be probably the most accurate discussion to have. But in terms of eliminated, because the word is eliminated jobs, okay, let's talk clear, okay. I think we need to evolve. I think we need to
Okay.
evolve, and that demands a lot from the education point of view. We need to create new careers, we need to create new trainings programs, as it's happening in other industries, but and we need to give access to those trainings and things. If
Yeah.
not, it's like giving a Ferrari to someone that cannot drive a bicycle, okay.
Hmm.
So I think it will replace if we not evolve, okay. So that is the message I can tell you. But at the same time, I can see some technology that I'm trying to focus more in
Hmm.
something that we as human cannot solve, okay, like processing rapidly a lot of bunch of information. Maybe those places or those spots should be where the AI and this kind of new prediction and modeling machine learning or generative AI should focus on how to process faster, more efficient, cheaper, affordable
Yeah.
information and serve to the human to take decision. But the labor in the fields maybe will change, or maybe they will
Correct.
be more uh, trained and more specific. If you see the AI that is, I don't know, in grape,
Hmm.
they record and you can see which are the grapes that are already uh, ready to harvest, to be harvested. If you know the grape production, maybe you get the best quality or the best grade for the best wines, and the mid grade for other wines and so on. So that is a kind of very simplifying the grape
Yeah.
production, the wine production. But so this AI can be help you to be more efficient when you are harvesting, those grapes.
Hmm.
So in the end, the quality of the wine will be better, okay, because you are not making some mistakes. But you still need someone that is harvesting, even if it's a machine or it's a human who is picking that up.
Yeah.
But that human needs to be somehow trained to use this kind of machinery.
Yeah, and you're hitting on something very critical, and I know it's part of one of your key services, where it is that training and education, right? And I think that as more information comes out, or people are testing and curating these different tools, there will be hopefully more education that's out there. But how do you guys go about like training and educating people who are interested in working with you specifically?
Oh, that's a good point. So we have a couple of tools that we are developing. One is called Layers Ag. We are very creative, in the agriculture. We call everything ag or everything bio or bio.
Okay.
But Layers Ag, it's it integrates geospatial analytics, market position, and agronomic intelligence, helping farmers and business to see the real impact of something. Whatever the decision they're taking, you can see at real time the impact is doing, so you can change fast, okay? Or you can take a decision in the matrix, let's say, and if it works, you go to the field and apply. And the other one is Regenerative platform that is very focused in regenerative. It's a AI-based or baked, we call, prescription model. So it's a 3 years prescription to jump from a conventional to a regenerative, okay, without losing the main goals or reducing the risk we talked about. But again, it's an open sky factory without IT team, helping. So our training and our capacitation and our, let's say, support for those users of these tools is one of the main team that we have. So, okay, how we can be there to help farmers to use it and not only subscribe.
Correct.
So that will involve training, programs, tutorials, using marketing automation. So don't bombing, with a lot of tutorials, but just putting the tutorial when the moment is happening. Okay. The cycle, we have a very long cycle. So we have, since the decision we take to plant until we harvest, it's at least 6 months, 7 months in row crops, or 3, 4, 2 months in specialty crops like veggies or fruits. So there are plenty of time, okay? So you don't need to bomb everything at the beginning or everything,
Correct.
at the end. You need to use the customer journey, okay? And be very farmer-centric. So when they are in the moment of the planting, just train on planting, okay? When you are in the moment of treating or scouting, the fields, train on that. When you are before the harvesting, train on that. So you need to follow the path. We call follow the journey map, okay? In order to be and try to copy how is a decision-making process in a farming, okay? So that is how we want to build a program. Like you can give a tool that they need to fill with information, okay? But if you don't follow up and help them to fill that up, that tool, it's not worth, because there is nothing inside,
Correct.
okay? So you cannot do anything with that. So in the end, people will say, well, I don't care, I don't want any more. So how we help them, support them to train and to support on how to fit. So be the IT team that they don't have, and at the same time be a kind of automated or farmer-centric support during the period of the whole process. So be really at the side of the farmers and not just behind the screen.
Yeah, that's reminded me of a conversation I had with a great friend of mine, and their whole concept when it came to their training and education was, how do we gamify this experience to where it keeps them engaged, but two, it doesn't allow them to jump ahead, because they'll just get overwhelmed and then analysis paralysis. But like, have it to where you're helping them, guide them accordingly, making sure they can still accomplish the necessary tasks, but also at the same time, you're gatekeeping the next step, because it's like, hey, you guys just aren't there yet. Like, there's no reason to rush it. So I think this concept of like gamification, the training and the education, is what it sounds like you guys are also like incorporating or trying to make sure to do as well.
Again, remember the example of the car I gave you. So
Yep.
all the complexity should be behind the scene. So the user experience should be very focused on solving problems,
Yes.
and not showing a fancy tool. That is something that is very clear for our team and for ourselves. And don't fall in the classic product-centric situation. Be farmer-centric situation and be problem solver. Okay, not problem creators.
Correct. So, it's funny because you answer one of the questions, or at least I believe it's going to be the answer is like if you had to design a tool out there to make it easier. It sounds like you guys are already just doing that. You're already designing the tools, reshape these thinkers, and like make it easier for them. So you're like already ahead of the game, which I love so much.
Well, we try. It's not easy sometimes because you're not alone. You need to rely
Oh
on
yeah,
a
that's.
lot of partnerships and those kind of things.
Hmm.
We are working with we will start now working with the NC State in North Carolina, and they are very focusing, and a lot of things are cool and are coming, and they are very focused also on farming. We try to. That is the classic questions when we start a meeting, saying, "Hey, what is exactly the real problem we want to solve, and how the farmers will think if we come with this, decision we just took." So sometimes I used to work in some companies that we put if all the chairs in the meeting room were green, let's say, or black, class black, we put a red one. So that red one is just to remember the farmer or the customer. Okay, so
Ooh,
every time we are taking a
I like
decision,
that.
hey, remember how this will be um, somehow accepted or not, and in the market. So that is something that we try to use as a methodology. It works all the time. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, because it's tough. Because technology sometimes is not yet prepared for the UX perspective. Okay, it's very strong in the, let's call, engine,
Hmm.
but when you need to show, I think we still need something more easy to show and to help, in order to farmers only focus on taking decisions and not in understanding what is going on in that tool.
Yeah. Well, I know the biggest thing for you guys is right, shaping the future. So I am prone to ask, right, as you're innovating and you're creating all these different tools, where do you see in the next 5 to 10 years? I don't like to think too far ahead because I think so much nowadays is happening so fast. Like I remember hearing like Nike used to plan out 10 years in advance, but because of
I
how
have no
things
clue.
change so quickly, they're like, we can't think 10 years. We got to think the next 6 months. And then after that, we think the next 6 months.
That's true.
So it helped like a lot. I don't say it helped, but it made other people think as well too. Where it's like everything is changing so fast. New technology is coming out. Like what could be the year from now will be drastically different 5 years from now. But what would you say over the next like 5 years, right, or even one year, you see this space going into, especially when it comes to the chat or the conversation of sustainability, specifically for like these different farmers
Yeah,
and companies.
that's a good question, and I make myself every single day. Every time you read, and sometimes, when you have excess of information, it could be tricky, because you read something and suddenly you believe it's already done, and it's just an announcement. It's a PR announcement. So I think there will be, I don't know, five big shifts. Most of them are already occurring, but maybe not massively. One, if the AI power decision making, will or must replace guesswork, okay? And that should be the focus when I'm talking about guesswork in farm management, or again, in the decision you need to take, okay? The second one could be new technologies or biotechnology in input. The biological world is growing very fast, the double or triple rate of growth that the chemical ones. So that's good news. Fertilizers, with some fixing some fertilizers in order to don't lose to the water, on the ground. Those technology are more focused in become more cost efficient, okay, and low environmental impact,
Mhm.
and becoming somehow agriculture more resilient to the climate, challenge that we are having. Like a US 4 years consecutive of drought in one of the main region. That's not very normal. We have cycles all the time, but
Correct.
why is 4 years consecutive of drought? So new technologies, biotechnology is working on that, like a short crops that need less water. Those things are coming. New technologies measuring, as I told you, all the difficult indicator we need to measure today, very manual. There are coming out new technologies that will measure in a more faster, more frequent, and more affordable. That it's also very, very important, especially in the sustainable part, or
Correct.
I don't like to use sustainability, okay? Sustain is stop doing what we are doing, stop doing the mess we are doing. I like more in the resilience or regenerating or climate smart agriculture, okay? So like a soil, biodiversity, and also avoiding, the high cost of today by going to the field, taking a good sample of soil, sending them to the lab, etc. And all this complexity that sometimes it's very funny because they face, okay, maybe this satellite is measuring, I don't know, organic matter of the soil. Oh, but
Yep.
what's the error, statistical error? And I say, well, what's the statistical error of sending a human, taking a
Yeah.
correct sampling, statistically sampling, sending to the lab, and without in the trip, don't lose the characteristics of the soil and the error of the labs. We need to be very, how can I say, very simple and put everybody in the same boat, okay, when you are
Correct.
comparing two things, right? And the fourth is in the sustainability. I think the carbon, the biodiversity, and water credits markets are coming. Carbon market is already there. It's growing. With the new changes of the governments are kind of slowing down a little bit, but it will grow.
Yeah, of course.
Biodiversity is already there. The biodiversity credits, water credits, okay, in the future. 2 years ago, it was in the UN, a discussion about how to put a board of trade of water, so you can see the cost of the water, So they are coming,
Wow.
and that will give farmers a real new revenue, okay,
Hmm.
for their farmers that will establish like a base. Today it's happening, okay, establish like a base of the income or revenue that will reduce the economical risk we talk about. You remember? Agronomic, economic, and emotional. So the economic
Correct.
one will be somehow reduced. And the five, and it's not the last one, probably there are more, but it's
Last
the
but not
digital
least.
tools. The digital tools are coming and they need to become more, I believe they will be more simple,
Hmm.
cheaper, and more integrated for a mass adoption. Those tools will be very focused in robotics and sales-driven machineries. So they are coming a kind of revolution of data integration and easy of use of the platform. That is something that I truly believe will come in the digital world.
Yeah. Well, Nico, your extensive, I would say, expertise and knowledge amazes me because one is a field I do not know much about, but I grew up again in a small boot of Missouri next to like farmland. So like walk outside and it's just like fields and stuff like that. So it's interesting to gain this perspective and like the actual understanding of the industry because I don't know about it. But I think you're hitting on some key elements that are crucial to just how in general we're developing. And
Thank you.
like the most common spaces. And I'm truly grateful. It may not seem like it, but I think somebody has to pay attention to these areas because it does impact, right? I'm very big into the health and
Yes.
fitness. And so food consumption, right? And then it's like, okay, well, how are we going about the actual agriculture of the food that we're growing? And then like the tools that we're using to make sure that we are producing better, we can produce, right? The necessities, right, in our day-to-day lives. So it's interesting to hear in this side of, I guess, the
Yeah, that
industry.
could be another podcast talking about food and how the relationship between agriculture and food. But everything I talk about soil health, we call soil health, plant health, food health, human health. So that is somehow what we think all the time. So if we don't have a soil health, and today they are very punished, let's call the soil, because we were taught like that, okay? And
Mhm.
that's very important. When we were at the university, we were taught to do that. Now, finally, we are a couple of years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we start to understanding that there is not exactly as we have been taught, okay? And we can do it better. And that is something why we are focusing on that, because the science discovered that it's not exactly as it was, okay? But again, new
Correct.
technologies, new sciences are coming and are discovering something that we didn't know in the past. That's why the differentiation between sustainability and regenerate. Sustain what you are doing. Stop. Don't do any more mess, okay? And regenerative is recover, not to the pristine situation, but at least recover as much as you can using everything you have in your hand, technology, digital. And the good news of this technology and digital tools are you can make it faster and cheaper, okay, than probably 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think tying into what you said earlier today, to where you're saying the fact for for where things are now, right? Not just what they are as like a statement. I think you're touching on something that more people need to do, where it's like, because we have the use of these technologies, being constantly open to where things could go, or the new, right? So that regenerative part, it's like, hey, this is what it is now. Year from now, we might have new information, new insights, where things change. I remember looking at a study, or not a study, a person, a doctor who was talking about everything that they had or knew about saunas and cold plunging was wrong, right? And it's interesting to hear that, because we live in this health phase where everybody's like, cold plunge in the morning, do saunas. And they're like, wait, with the new information that we have, actually, maybe that there's some things we need to tell you to do instead. And I think that's what you're tackling on as well, where it's like, hey, we're going to continuously innovate based on the information and the insights that we get, to just continuously make better improvements, versus the staying where we currently are, and maybe end up causing more, I don't say causing more damage, but in a way it feels like it would be causing more damage if you just sustain how things are.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I agree with you. Be on top of the evolution. It's good. And I think it's so complex to produce, it's so complex to farm, that sometimes, again, coming back to the gap between the ones who are thinking 24/7 in new things and new technologies and innovation, they lose the reality of the farmers, and the farmers cannot follow up, that evolution. So that is the gap. Somehow, someone needs to focus on that and reduce that gap. Okay. So my humble opinion is focus on the problem and not the tool. That is something that you need to. So what's exactly the problem today? And build a tool from the farmer's perspective upstream to the company or whatever, the business.
Gotcha. With that being said, where do you see the Net Zero project going? Where do you guys want to go? What's the vision? Help us gain a little bit of insight.
Yeah, well, everything I share with you, it's something that we are devoted. We think about that. It's part of our culture. When we define the culture, we also define this being farmer centric, or and be more, let's say, open to new ideas and open to new ways to solve problems. So NetZero Project has in the core, this kind of thinking. Of course, we can make mistakes and we can miss something, but it's part of our exercise in our meetings and so on. So I think we want to make a NetZero Project. It will be like a holding, okay? And below the NetZero Project, with the culture, with the mission and vision, we will be supporting other companies with technology or building technologies for farmers, okay, and giving the support for farmers, or offering the support team, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
augmentation, for companies that cannot do it, focusing in adoption and innovation. We want to see farmers don't talk anymore about what's this tool is for, it's more related to, yeah, you increase your revenue, yield is still there, you are improving your organic matter. So that is our goal, to focus in the impact you are having, to return and measure. That we are very, very focused in measure analytics all the time, because you can't, the guesswork, it should be reduced. And as I told you before, the tools should be focused also on that, reducing the guesswork. So
Yeah,
measure. If it doesn't work, you can take a decision. But if you don't
correct.
measure, you never know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can people follow you or collaborate with you guys? What would be the best place to
All the page is the NetZero, that you can enter there and contact us. If not, you can add my contact information in the podcast, in the comments. So anybody can reach us, no problem.
Well, Nico, I appreciate it, brother, more than you know. Definitely, we're gonna have to do a part two to talk about the food, because I think that is interesting. That the way you put it in the perspective, I would definitely love to be able to explore that insight as well too. So, any last words, insights you would love to leave with the people before we close out?
Yeah, I think for farmers, it's we know it's about yield and it's about, maximizing yield. And that's something that nobody wants to affect because at the same time, remind we as agriculture, we need to feed the world, okay? And the world is growing. So it's a big challenge that we have, we need to keep the planet safe. At the same time, we need to feed the world. So it's very tricky. So for farmers, we know that the yield should be something that it's out of discussion. We need to maximize the yield per surface unit, let's say acre in this case. But at the same time, there are today, or they are coming, and there are today some source of revenue at your hands that can somehow help you to make the jump, to make, to decide to do that trip to a more regenerative agriculture. So just get informed, and we are open to talk with them anytime and help them to really understand that it's our passion and it's something that we truly believe. And there are plenty of companies offering, that access to new streams of revenue. So we understand that it's farming and it's getting more yield and nice crop and everything. And I am agronomist. I know that. I worked a lot of fields in my life in several countries, but maybe getting informed of these new streams of revenue could be something that it's very important to them. They will somehow give them more resilience, especially when a drought coming or something like that.
Awesome. Well, Nico, I appreciate it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. That being said, stay tuned for a part two.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you, Jeremiah, for the invitation. And yeah, I'm here for the next one.
Awesome. Ciao.